We're going to show you guys how to custom paint and install badges on your F-150.
There's definitely a simpler way to do this, and that would be just to order custom painted badges. But if you're trying to match a very detailed particular color like Sam is on his truck, or if you like to do things yourself and save some money, this is a good video for you.
But whether you decide you want to buy badges that are already painted or you want to try to paint them yourself, we're going to show you how to disassemble the front grille and get to that badge in the front, and also how to get to the one on the tailgate.
What we're going to show you works for my 2018 Plus or Sam's 21. The install method might just be just a little bit different, but the badges are very similar. Now mine were pre-painted. I just ordered them off Etsy, about 250 bucks a few years ago. It's gonna cost you more than that now, I'm sure, as everything costs more in 2021. But I've got a really good paint job on mine. The lead foot matched really good, but I was actually going with a Ford color, so it was easy to trust that they're gonna get a color close enough. Sam's color, a little bit different story.
So since I had my truck wrapped, I was trying to match a different color than a lot of you guys. This badge being wrapped, it isn't quite as nice as a fully painted one. It's okay from a few feet back, but once you get up on it, you can see some imperfections. You can tell that it's a sticker over the top. The custom painted badge is going to be a whole lot more detailed.
Full disclosure, this is my front badge, and I want to show you this gap right here. We actually had to put some automotive double-sided tape in there to fill some of that gap, because the badge that I received off of Etsy did not actually have curvature to it and fit really well. We also had to do some grinding on some of the parts on the back side, a little bit of cutting to be able to get this to fit right. It's great from 1 foot, but if you get up really close, you're gonna see a problem that Sam's not gonna have because of the way he's doing this process.
I'm gonna be painting my badges gloss black and a color that's gonna match this Avery Satin Dark Basalt very close.
Now I wanna say up front, this is not a quick, easy 2-hour do-it-yourself project. The painting's gonna take potentially a day or two because you're gonna have multiple coats with different time frames to wait. You're gonna have to try to keep the environment you're painting in clean so that you don't get dust and trash in your paint coat. And then the take off and the put back on, it's not a 1-hour process, guys. You're probably looking at 2 hours to get all this off and back on if you're being careful and not scratching the parts of your vehicle.
It may take Brad 2 hours to replace these badges. It ain't gonna take me that long. Instead of taking my badges off, painting them, and then reinstalling them, I went ahead and bought a front and rear badge separately. That way I didn't have my truck tore apart, and then while I'm painting for a couple days and making sure everything dries correctly, I don't have my front grille off, and you know, you can't really drive around that way. I guess you can, but I'm too cool for that. I'm not driving around with my front grille off. So I had a crap ton of Ford Pass points sitting around from buying this truck, so I paid for them out of Ford Pass points. I didn't come out of pocket a penny. Now I could have bought oil changes and stuff with that, but I went ahead and got premium 100% legit Ford parts. I don't have to worry about ordering off of some other website and possibly not getting the correct part, and then putting all my time and effort into painting these and then ending up with something that doesn't fit. A new set of badges is going to cost you about $260 for the both of them with tax. You can find them cheaper elsewhere, but beware, you don't know exactly what you're getting. I took it to the next level. I went to Ted Russell Ford, my dealer, went to the parts department, gave them my VIN, and we made sure we had the exact right part for my vehicle. Just do your homework, guys.
Up front, I want to say this isn't like a super detailed, perfect example of how to do this. This is how we're doing this. It may not be the best way. If you've got a better way, drop it down in the comments and we'll read that. We're going to find some things unexpected as we go through this process, like we always do anytime we do a mod. And when we come up against those things and make some audibles and change how we're doing it, we'll let you know.
Let's get in here and get these badges taken apart and painted. If you decided you want to take on painting your own badges, this is where that journey begins, guys. We'll put the part numbers in the description. The tailgate is going to be the same badge no matter what. The front badge, which Ford calls a decal for some reason, is going to depend on whether you have 360 camera or not. The part number I'll put down in the description is going to be for anything with a 360 cam and up. Make sure you get the right front badge for your truck. You're going to want to take your VIN, go to Ford Parts, and find that badge on there and make sure you get the right one. You don't want to end up with the wrong thing, guys. Let's open these up. So here's your front badge. Nice, shiny, and new, and you're not going to have any tape in the way. Over here on the tailgate badge, you've got double-sided tape, and if you're taking yours off of your truck, Most of this sticky is already going to come off when you remove it from your truck. We're going to have to start from scratch here, which may make it a little easier. Doesn't take but a minute though, guys, but you're going to have to peel all this off. You want to make sure you get enough tape off to where you can see every little spot. These are plastic welds, and these are what we're going to be removing so that this comes apart in pieces. What'll happen is chrome parts will separate from the blue part. This little piece right here is what makes the D and this little spot in the F blue. It's a separate piece, I believe. So we've got our badges out here on the table. We'll flip them over and you're going to see what we're going to be doing to separate these. Each one of these is a plastic weld, and you've got to get that removed so that it will separate. Now there's multiple ways of doing that. We're going to start with a drill on some of these larger ones, and you don't drill through, you're just trying to break this plastic. On some of the smaller ones, I may try to use this Dremel. You can see this type of tip here. I mean, anything will work, but you're just wanting to buzz this off on some of these smaller ones till things separate. And I would start slow and make sure you don't go too deep, because you don't want to harm this side and go all the way through. So we're using a 5/16 drill bit, and this, I'm going to show you guys how simple this is on these larger ones. You're going to take this drill bit, it goes real slow, and you're going to take this plastic and have it catch, and that right there is as deep as you want to go. You're just breaking that overflow of blue plastic off of this, and so now this can push out once all of them are done. So you're going to continue that process on all of these larger ones. We'll move on to the smaller ones after we've got all these large ones broke off. All right, so we finished up all of the large pieces we're detaching. I will say, be careful, because with a good sharp drill bit, it does try to pull itself in. So you really want to be very careful. Stay slow when you're going in, and you're just trying to crack that top layer off and not go any deeper. Remember that. So once we got to this point, these pieces will go ahead and come off. They look to be identical, but I'm not 100% positive. I did notice that one of these is labeled CAV3 and this one's CAV2. So I'm going to keep them separated.
You got to keep them separated.
Got to keep them separated. Now we're going to move on to the smaller dots that we're talking about here, connection points. These are really easy as well. I've already done a couple. I'm going to use this Dremel bit. You can see right here where I've taken these two off. You get it down to where it's just the little stem. Now, this is how it works. I'm going to finish these up. I'll show you what it looks like when you pull them apart. So the Dremel works great for all of your little spots. Now that you've got all of those taken care of, including the black ones around the edge, if you've got this type of badge with your camera and washer, we can start pulling these apart now. At this point, you may want to have a screwdriver handy, so you can kind of push right on the part that needs to pop out here. Yeah, made that easy. So that piece will come off. You've already got this piece, and you've got this ring in here as well. It's a little harder to get at. So prying doesn't work as well. It's really hard to get something in there. Brad mentioned we should go back to the push method. I grabbed a punch, but it's not quite small enough. What actually works really good is just any old ballpoint pen.
Who knew we'd be getting so technical?
You can stick those right in the little holes, and you can tell right away if it's going to pop out real easy. It goes ahead and breaks that last tiny bit of plastic, and you can go around, hit those, and watch, comes right off. Now, I'm going to go ahead and mention this now, so if you forget to watch this future in the video, this is two-sided. It actually goes on one way. The holes line up one way. It's actually the same shape, but these holes are different one way versus the other. So when you go to put this back together, maybe this tailgate one's not. I have been told that this one is. We'll take a look at that. Make sure after you've got everything painted that you piece it back together first before you start gluing everything and get glue everywhere and have something that don't fit. Just a little tidbit there. I'm gonna go ahead and break this one down as well. That way we can get them prepped at the same time and get them ready for paint. Okay, both badges are separated now. Remember to keep these separate parts when you're painting them. Try to keep them separate as possible. It does look like it would fit, kind of. It doesn't fit as good. I just wouldn't trust it when you go to putting things back together that you have the best fit in the world if you don't keep them separate. Before we start cleaning all this up, I recommend you go ahead and take the chrome, and you're going to want to knock the sheen off and get it just a little bit scratched up so it's going to accept paint a little bit better. This type of chrome is notorious for being hard to get paint to stick and everything. Just scuffing it a little bit is going to take care of that for you. So I'm using, I don't even know what grit this is. It's not that gritty.
I'm going to show them the cut that you're putting into it. It's not a lot.
Here, we'll
scuff a second.
Just kind of swirl this up and let you see what we're doing here. Also going to show you this little boo-boo that I put on this one. When you're working on these, make sure you don't drop them. I dropped this one and
the corner
landed on the floor. Can you see that in the camera?
Yeah.
Now, it was way worse and I was sick. I took a hammer and I have worked on this. It was very gentle. This plastic is highly metallized on the outside, so it did take shape back. I guess I'm just gonna have to live with that, guys. At this point, it's too late.
So you're not
hopefully
perfect.
I'm not perfect, and hopefully gloss black doesn't show as bad as chrome does. So let's get these prepped. So we've got these sanded up. Make sure that you get the edges, and you might even want to take the edge of this, stick it down in here like I did. What that's going to do is allow the paint to adhere all the way around the edge, and it's going to keep you from getting chips and paint curling up as easy. It's not a huge big deal if you don't do that, but just gives you a little bit more peace of mind. We're not going to sand the blue with our Scotch-Brite. Since it's plastic, we're going to use a plastic adhesion promoter. We don't need to sand these for that reason. Do need to get the chrome though, because chrome is really hard to paint. So let's blow these off. If you don't have compressed air, you're probably going to want to take these and wash them in a sink, get them really good and clean, soap and water, and have time to let them dry. But since we've got compressed air, we can save some time. Once we get these blown off, we're going to rub them down with some alcohol. So now we're going to clean everything up now that it's all blown off, cleaned up our work area real good, because all that little plastic dust gets everywhere. It was all over my face. I'm using a little denatured alcohol. If you've just got rubbing alcohol at home, that's perfect as well. Make sure, once again, you rub all your edges, get everything nice and wiped down and ready for paint. Make sure you prep everything, including the blue plastic pieces, even though they didn't get sanded, guys. You're wanting to make sure the paint adheres really well, and make sure you're good and dust free before you paint.
So we're going to move over to our paint booth, dedicated space. It's about 1,500 square feet just for painting. We never put cars in here. It's just for painting. So all this space right here, we just keep it clear so that when we paint, it's ready to go.
I know you guys don't believe that crap. All right, so what I've done, I've got everything over here. Now, at some point, you're going to want to paint these separate because you're using two separate colors. But for right now, I'm using some plastic primer. This is by Valspar. I believe this comes from Lowe's probably. This is going to improve adhesion with plastics, and I think since all this is plastic, this is a good step. So here we go. This is just clear. It's going to make everything kind of a matte finish. We're going to do 2 coats of this, 2 really light coats. This does need to dry for an hour before you put any other product on, and it's late in the day, so tomorrow morning we'll be putting some primer on, and we'll be showing you which products we're using as we use them. trash right here in my finish, so I'm gonna have to buff that out a little bit. So now I'm over here at my drying promoter, and we're gonna speed this process up so I can buff that out a little bit.
We bought that just for our paint booth. So I want to show you on this, the finish on this is after one coat, it comes out very matte. It's almost like frosty, because if you'll remember, this was a slick gloss blue navy, and now it's all the way down to a flat frosty finish. Even on the chrome, it's frosty, looks like billet. He'll come back with a second coat on that after he gets the trash out of this one piece. And after you got two coats here, this stuff actually etches into the surface here. So it's actually cutting just a little bit with a chemical into the plastic, so that when you put another paint on there, it will stick a lot better than it would over a gloss plastic or this little bit of chromized plastic, whatever this is. It's gonna eat into that just a little bit. So whatever we spray on here from this point forward, it's gonna stick a lot better. So he brought this back over after he sanded on it, so you can see a sanded off edge versus where this promoter is on, and you can tell how it takes 100% of the shine away.
Got both coats on. We'll let this dry overnight. Only needed an hour, but we're headed to the house. We'll see you guys in the morning.
So the etching primer is dried, and Sam's going to show you what he's about to use and why he's decided against another coat of primer.
So I know I said I was going to put a coat of primer on over the plastic primer that etches in, and I got to thinking about it. I was like, do I really want I couldn't find black for one. Do I really want to put a light coat, a light color over the top of the blue, whereas right now if I get a chip, it's going to be that dark blue, and since I'm going with a dark color, that's going to hide better. So I think this plastic primer is made exactly to do its job the way we've used it, and I'm not going to use this regular primer, but I am going to go ahead and start the top coat. And the color I've picked is metallic black stainless. This is a Krylon product. We'll put a link to it down in the description. They got a lot of different colors. A lot of you guys are going to want to match your paint code and that sort of thing, but since I've got a wrap and I'm trying to match that satin dark basalt, this is what I'm going to go with, guys. I'm going to put on 2 light coats and make sure I got full coverage.
I probably shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to say it. You've got blue colored stuff that you're painting, and you've got chrome stuff that you're painting, and that's 2 different colors. Be sure that you paint the blue stuff the color you want as like the big bulky color of the background, and that you paint the chrome pieces with your accent color. So Sam's painting the blue stuff with his body color that he's matching to his wrap. He'll paint the chrome stuff with the black. You don't want to mess that up. So when you go to put this back together and it's reversed from what you thought it would be, you're gonna be sick. That is looking nice.
Get the second coat on here. Not going to build up the edges a lot on this second coat. Don't want to get the parts too thick to where they rub when everything goes back together, but we'll let that dry. All right, time to paint the black. So what I'm going to use is Duplicolors Perfect Match Universal Black. You can pick this up at about any auto parts store. It also has a clear that you can use, and what's unique about that is you can put the clear on within 30 minutes of putting on this top coat. You don't have to let it dry for 24 or 48 hours before putting that clear on. So that's going to speed up this process a little bit. So let's get to spraying.
Now we're just going to sit here and watch paint dry.
All right. There's the second coat on. Probably do 3 coats of black, and we'll throw in some clear. All right, last coat. So I got to use this product on our 96 Bronco project when we painted the grill, so I'm familiar with how this works. But after you put your black coats on, you can wait 30 minutes and you can go straight to clear with this product, which is pretty nice. We're going to put on 2 coats 10 minutes apart. Time for the last coat of clear. Once we get this coat on, it's time to let this dry overnight, and we'll install them and get them back on the truck tomorrow. This is going to be a 3-day process for us. If you crammed, you might be able to get it done in 2. Be patient with the painting process. If you rush this, you're going to run into issues. On this last juicy coat. This is one of those audibles we talked about. I wasn't going to put clear over this metallic black stainless. After seeing what it looks like over the black, I think we need to put some over this color as well. It's going to add layer protection, UV protection, help with scratching and that sort of thing. So right now is the time to do it. So here we go. Let's cross our fingers and hope this doesn't have a bad reaction. Well guys, the paint job turned out better than I thought it would. They look pretty nice. We're going to use some super glue. Any brand will do. You can go get the 99-cent stuff, or you can pay extra, whatever. Just make sure that you are pretty good with super glue and know how to control it. You're going to be adding some back here and inside of this lip where all these parts are going to stick. You don't have to put a ton, because once you've put a little bit on there, got everything put together, we can flip it over. We can put a dollop on the back when we're done to connect these points that we ground off earlier. It's going to hold together nice. Just want to be very careful with super glue, guys, because if you get it on your paint right now, it's not going to be good. Before you start putting glue on these, you want to have test fitted all the pieces together and made sure that you have it sitting in the orientation to where it will go together. This little small ring is notorious for not wanting to fit together right. There's a little smaller tab between the top and the bottom, and you can see on this piece the top is a little bit smaller than the bottom. It's not that obvious on here, but you kind of want to put these together and make sure you've got them sitting in an orientation where you have already put it together and you know it's going to fit good, because once you put glue in here and stick it in and you have problems and you have to take it back apart, it could get a little dicey at that point.
Just adding a couple little dots, not enough to push to where it would squirt out up onto some of the painted surface that's going to end up being there.
Super glue works really well, guys. You don't need a ton of it. Remember, you're going to be gluing from the back side anyway, so got a little bit on there. Take this piece, fit it together, and this is the reason you want to have let this dry overnight for 24 hours is you're having to put pressure on this. If you just go ahead and do it that same afternoon and it's a little bit tacky still, right now you're going to be putting fingerprints all in your badge. So
my first reaction is that looks pretty freaking awesome. I can't wait to see it on this, in the sun. Oh yeah, way better than the vinyl one.
I would recommend, once you start putting it inside of here, don't take it out until you have made sure that your nozzle is free of glue. See how I'm running around and I'm not pulling it out to move to the next point or anything. Just going to keep you from making a mess.
Let's see if you can do it without screwing it up after you've told everybody that.
Alright, so now I'm done. I'm going to wallow my tip around, make sure, and pull it out good and clean. And remember, I've already put this in the orientation where it will fit. So we'll drop it in. No surprises. Looking good. For this piece that does the D and the little hole in the F, I'm not going to put any glue on yet. I'm going to go ahead, put it in place. Make sure it's good and flush on the front. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it back here in a few spots. And this is what I meant by gluing it from the back on all those other little dots as well. Probably not crucial that you get all of them at this point, but you can go around and glue, of course, all your big plastic pieces here, but remember these little dots
for that little ring.
For the little ring. You don't want to have problems with it later on, and you're gonna have to take your entire grill and everything back off. It's not gonna be fun. But now that you're putting glue everywhere, be careful when you're handling it from now on. You are gonna have glue everywhere at this point. I'm gonna throw the other one together. We'll get the truck in here and we'll start pulling it apart. Before we went and took the old badges off, you know, being wrapped, it's okay. I mean, I'm having a little bubbling issue right here. It wouldn't stay down. I guess you guys can see that, and that's kind of one of the big reasons I didn't.
You can see white back in here a little bit.
You know, it's not perfect, and you know, on a previous truck of mine, I got some of those decals that you can buy. They're pretty cheap, like 20 bucks, and you can stick them over your factory badges, and they look all right, but it's just not that great. But here's what we're going to be putting on, so you can see how much nicer a fully painted custom badge is going to look compared to the wrapped one.
I think the change in color from this being a satin finish and this being gloss, it's gonna pop, and I'm shocked at how well you match the color, man.
Hey, I looked around at different stores, different metallics, bought a bunch of cans. I know that's, you know, I probably spent
He's got $700 in these badges.
I probably got 40 bucks in spray paint where I tried different colors, but
if he ever needs to paint the newel post, he's already got the paint.
A lot of you guys are going to be matching factory colors, and you know, you can go to your automotive paint store and they can mix up that color for you for 20 bucks. You know what you're getting at that point, but I had to play around a little bit to get what I wanted.
We're going to start in the front, and we've got to get this grill assembly off so that we can access the back of this badge and take off a couple little bolts to get that popped out. Now, to do that, the simplest way, and probably the only way, is we're going to take this piece off. There's going to be 2 bolts around the side in the fender well on both sides, and then we'll be able to get to some bolts on the bottom of this grill. We're going to take this plastic shroud off the top, be able to take a couple bolts out there. We'll show you the high points as we do that. After we get this popped off, we'll take it over to the bench, remove some stuff from the back of it, change our badge out, and then reverse everything back on.
Here's a 7mm, works right here. You're gonna remove these on both sides. Got all 4 out, so you're just gonna pull this. You know, I've already got a chip in my paint from the factory, so that's great.
You want to drop this on the ground when you get done?
No, not really. You want to be careful. It's just pops right on off, man. It's pretty easy. I'm gonna start right here again.
Yeah, that seems to be the toughest spot.
And then right in there, and get off. That's how that works. Now we're gonna pull all these push pins out. If you've got a fancy tool, use it. If you don't, you can use a screwdriver. You can find the little spot, lift up, and these are 2-piece, but you can pull to a certain point and get underneath the bottom, and they'll stay together for you.
That way you don't drop it down in here to the pits of, you know, where.
You don't want to drop them, and same thing with these. You can pull up a little bit and then get underneath the bottom. You can keep them in one piece as well, and pull all these out and remove this cover. So we got this off. Don't forget you're going to have 2 on your air box. Mine is a Whipple air box, so it's a little different, a little bit harder to get these out. But once you get all the pins pulled out, you can remove this. Then we've got 4 10mm bolts on top and 2 8mm bolts. It's this one here.
Inside.
Don't have to take this one off. This is for your headlight. Now, before you take those bolts off, let's come in here. Depending on what model truck you have, you're going to have different options in here. This,
probably an active shutter, and then the camera maybe.
Yeah, active shutter, a camera, but this is 4 for your washer fluid if you have the camera system, and the trick to getting it off is it's an oval shape. You see, you have to squeeze that oval until it's a circle. So when my supercharger was installed, my nozzle for my windshield, or for the washer fluid on the camera, didn't get reinstalled. It would go in here. So this is what you guys are going to see, and you would squeeze this to allow it to pop out. Mine had fell down in there. And don't forget, you've got one of these clips holding it on to the grill shroud right here. And once you get all that off, you're free to remove everything. You don't want to get anything caught on there.
Big old assembly.
So let's take this to the bench.
Sam not keeping his truck clean.
So now you can see the back of the badge, and you can see these 3 silver caps screws. They kind of cut into the plastic and hold the badge on. That's what's actually holding the badge on. But since I have a camera and the washer fluid deal, you're gonna have to unhook those as well. I'm gonna attempt to take these 4 10mm nuts off and flip the shutter assembly out of the way without unhooking any of my connections. May need to do that, but we'll see where that goes. If you can't see down in there and you want to see, guys, you can turn these shutters by hand. You can hear the motor running. You're not going to hurt anything, but you can twist those and move them out of your way if you need to. So I took the 4 nuts off. You're gonna have these clips on the, I flipped it upside down now. You're gonna have a clip, and a clip. And what you've got to do, you can take a screwdriver, get right underneath this edge and lift up, and it pops loose. We'll show you on one we haven't done yet. So here's that clip. Take a little screwdriver. It's that easy, pops right out. This one's been a little bit of a pain. There we go. Got the bottom loose now.
Is there a screw right in here?
Yes, that's it. Yep, missed one. So there's one last screw right in the middle.
That's what's holding it up.
It's gonna be a 7mm. Nope, 8mm. $8mm. Now we come loose, and not really enough room to leave everything attached. So you've got your washer fluid. Undo it, push down. You've got this retaining clip right here. Kind of make a mental note of how that's arranged. Kind of like a guy in a lazy boy.
He's not got his feet up there. He's not like me in a lazy boy. Do you want to break that clip?
Probably not. It's kind of to hold that in place. Lay that over here. Push that through now. There we go.
Everything but the connections now.
And there's one more retaining clip down here if you have the washer fluid.
Now, all apart.
Now we're loose. Set this out of the way.
So after the shutter assembly's gone, we got 10 millimeter on this, this, and this. Now these are not hard, you know, hardware nuts. They're like a, I won't call it pot metal, but it's hollow. So they're going to twist out, but you want to actually be very careful with those. And then you got a T25 Torx bit for this, this, and this. That's kind of like your whole washer assembly. And it will just remove and then go right back on when you get your other badge on. So that piece just pulls.
You got to undo this.
Yep.
Looks like.
It's unreal how much detail goes into this.
I can feel spring loaded on this side, this little guy. So what we're going to do, I'm going to pull him out. And to get this off, don't want to lose this. I have seen somebody on a forum asking where to find one, and that's probably not a part you can buy. You're probably going to be a couple $100 for this assembly.
Camera, washer assembly.
Don't lose that.
Don't lose the clip. Show 'em one of those. It's a hollow type of deal, and it just cuts plastic right there. The teeth of it on the inside piece actually cuts into the plastic right there, makes its own little thread. Badge is out. That was easy, man. That was only like 27 different bolts and clips and pops and connections. And
so this is off, and let's pull this wrap off. You can see it went on in a couple different pieces. So if you were pulling these apart and you were going to paint the badges that you have instead of buying a set, this is where you start from the beginning of the video.
badge in. That's it. Done.
Not quite. Hook everything back up like you took it off. We'll show you the results here in a couple seconds.
This is buttoned up and I think it looks pretty freaking amazing. Let's get the back torn apart.
Now we're going to remove the badge on the tailgate. Remember guys that this is on there with double-sided tape and a lot of clips around this thing. So to get to it, you're going to pop your tailgate. I have the work surface. If you don't have the work surface, you're going to have a cover here as well. These are all T30 on my work surface, probably the same on a standard tailgate, but you're going to remove this panel. I think it's a little bit shorter of a panel on the style without the work surface, but get this panel off first. So you can see this is the back side of the badge right here. This is the double-sided tape, so it doesn't all touch and stick, but it does around the edge all the way around. Then you've got these clips that you're going to want to squeeze and push out. Don't want to break one of those clips. Won't stay in as well. You're going to be putting double-sided tape back on anyway, so it's not the end of the world if you break one, but you want to be careful with those clips while you're pushing it out. Once you get towards the end, be careful. If you're doing it by yourself, you may want to put a blanket underneath to catch it, just in case you push it through and it hits the ground or something.
It's on there good.
These are really hard to get off without breaking a tab. going back on with some double-sided tape as well. I'll tell you what my thoughts are. I got this thing off. I didn't break any clips, but it is a miracle I didn't. You're going to be putting some double-sided tape on. It's still going to pop in there, but it's a pain. So now you're going to want to clean all this off really good. Clean this surface up, especially for when you put some double-sided tape on, because any badges that you're putting back on that have been painted aren't going to have tape on them because somebody's had to take the tape off to be able to paint them.
Sam is applying 3M brand automotive tape. You can get it at any auto parts store, but you want to stay inside of this line right here so that you don't end up seeing it on the outside of the badge once you pop it on.
It could interfere. You may not see it, but you don't want to get it down in here because that's going to actually seat inside the truck, so you kind of want to stay inside of this edge.
Yep, because this part here is going into the truck.
We're ready to stick this on now. You can't put it on upside down. It's got a clip going in one spot to keep you from doing that, but let's hope you wouldn't have that problem to begin with.
I don't think that it got this far.
If you were that dumb.
I mean, the clip's there for a reason.
There we go.
Because the clips came on the new badges ready to go, it just popped right back in. Everything's solid, so we'll throw all this back on.
Well guys, what do you think? This wasn't the simplest process, but it's definitely doable in a garage. There's not a lot you can break or tear up, and it's something you can do yourself and feel some pride in.
Guys, if you watched this whole video, type finisher down there in the comments and let us know you were here to the end. YouTube thinks you'll like this other video that I put right over Sam's face right here. I can't move it now, man. Guys, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.